Welcome to another episode of Bucket List Coach Web Show Live. Raw travel, baby. So just stay tuned for this 2-minute video.
People often ask me how I choose my travel destinations. Truth be told, much of the time, I don't choose them. They choose me. Something or someone calls me to a place, either for the first time or a repeat visit, as was the case with Poland. I had visited Krakow, Poland briefly once before, but this time I was heading to Ukraine via a road trip through Poland that would allow me to explore more cities and grasp a broader perspective of Polish culture and history. My trips are like my children, and my crew and you, dear viewer, are my extended family. Travel is not just a profession, passion, or privilege for me. It's an opportunity to perhaps make a difference. I don't wish to lead a self-absorbed existence. Sharing thoughtful travel is one way to contribute something of value while on this mysterious journey called life. So, help me help you. Come, tag along on Raw Travel's charming Polish road trip.
Travel. For some, it's a luxurious escape, or maybe an adrenaline-filled adventure. But if you're like me, it's a precious opportunity to discover and to give back. It's time to get real. It's time to get raw. It's time for Raw Travel.
Wow. Oh my God, guys. I cannot stand it. I cannot believe that Robert is on the podcast. He's actually the reason that this podcast is actually happening. So before we get into that, let me kind of tell you my story. I am the founder over at Bucket List Coach Web Show Live. Make sure you go to TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you go to YouTube at where'scindynow.com, you subscribe, comment, and you share this very video, I'll actually gift you a 5-night hotel stay. It's about a couple $100. You cover the tax and I cover the hotel. This is so amazing to have Robert on. I mean, we're talking about friends who become family. This is amazing. And I think I started watching your show. You remember me telling you what year it was? Was it 2017?
It was pretty early on, I think. It could have been earlier, like 16, 17, maybe. I don't know. It's all a blur. The past 10 years have been a blur for me, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Chief Fun Officer. I was like, oh, I like that title. That's a good title, CFO.
Exactly. So my story actually is I was a chef for 25 years. I followed Anthony Bourdain for many years, like when he was first a chef. And then I ended up getting arthritis. And I'm like, what am I going to do? You know, I can't spend the rest of my life in a crazy kitchen and, not having weekends off. Why not just create a business that I could help other small business owners? So I actually have a concierge business where I help people be top of mind. And also, if you are a busy entrepreneur, I help you travel. And the biggest thing for me is living the dash, because until my late 40s, I literally was existing. I was in tears one day. I woke up and I was working 110 hours in my marketing company. Like, this is not what I signed up for. I took my first trip. I took my first cruise. I took my first orphanage voluntourism trip, and I fell in love. I fell in love with this amazing industry. So today we have Robert Rose, rawtravel.com. Make sure that you check him out on Facebook, on Instagram, and definitely subscribe on YouTube. So tell my audience your why and your backstory.
So rawtravel.tv. And so I've been working in television most of my career, broadcasting, marketing, advertising. But producing, I got into in 2000 when I started my own company, and I produced a Latin television show called America.
Oh, there you go.
And, worked for Univision. So I kind of that's where my love for travel really began. When I moved to New York, started meeting people from all these exotic locations like Guatemala, Ecuador, the Bronx, and I was like, wow, man, this is so cool. And they would give me inside information on where to go when I traveled. So I started a lot of travel to Latin America. And that's what really began my love affair. And it was a way to, practice my Spanish, learn about each different country in Latin America, have a connection to Latinos here in the United States. And then gradually, you just start branching out and branching out. And I always tell people, I call Costa Rica like
Oh,
travel
wow. Yeah.
101. If you haven't been anywhere, go to Costa Rica first, and get your feet wet. And then after that, you'll get more bold because you'll see that it's not as scary. And, I still get nervous. I still get anxious before I go on a trip sometimes, just like, did I remember everything? Do I have all my documents in order? That's normal. But once you get there and you get on the ground, day one, all the butterflies go away and the joy of travel really hits you. And anyway, I was living abroad in Colombia, South America. I'd sold my previous company and was able to live abroad and just travel, backpacking for the first time in my life in my 40s, kind of late in life as well. And basically was like, I was a big fan of Anthony Bourdain as well, but I was like, I'm not a foodie. I didn't see the type of travel that I was experiencing, which was more grassroots, authentic travel. Everything was a little bit more luxury travel, and I wanted to represent that and also inspire people who maybe don't think they can travel to travel. So our goals are kind of aligned, and I guess that's why we connected.
Exactly. And a lot of my clients will, Cindy, I can't take a $3,000 vacation. I'm like, well, come out here to Southern California. I mean, you could go whale watching. You could go to San Diego, go get a little piece of history, go to the Midway Museum if you're an aviation geek. I mean, there's so many things you could do for, under $200. Just go out there and experience it because we do not know our last day of breath for sure.
No, I've had 3 people that I've worked closely with in the show or in my industry in the past month and a half pass away from various reasons.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Wow.
And like, it just feels like a reminder to just go live your life. It's a reminder to the living, when that happens, I think, to go and live your best life. Of course, you can't live every day like it's your last, so you won't have any retirement savings or anything like that. Strike a balance between the two, and basically just make sure you're trying to live every day as fully as you possibly can, and travel is a big part of that.
Yeah, so I have Mary West on. Hey, Mary, live your best life. And yeah, she talks about how important it is to celebrate every day. What do you want to say about that?
Yeah, well, I think, travel is a great way to recalibrate because I get lost in the weeds and producing the show. It's an intense profession that I've chosen for myself, of just being an independent producer. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
But I oversee the distribution, ad sales, marketing, production, the script writing, everything. And we do 20 episodes a year, which is insane.
Wow.
By the standards of even television. So when I first began, I just wanted to see if I could do it physically. It was just a challenge. But now that I've been doing it for 10 years, that challenge is no longer there. And I just have to remind myself, I had a period in 2018 where I was really lost in the minutia of producing the show, and the joy of travel had just gone. And I said, enough. I didn't start producing the show so I could sit in front of a computer 24/7. I'm going to not say no to any opportunity to travel. So that was the year of October 2018. It carried me through 2020, really, the first of 2020, when if I got an opportunity to travel, I went. And I've traveled more than I'd ever traveled before. I was filming content. I was like, I'll never be able to edit all this. And then the pandemic hit, and it carried me through the pandemic. So it really was a blessing in disguise. And it was a wonderful way to live life, because I was like, there really is no reason to do the show if you're not going to enjoy what inspired you to do the show in the first place. So it recalibrated me, but I still have to get recalibrated every now and then. I'm trying to plan my next escape as well right now,
Exactly. So let's talk about voluntourism, because both of us are really into that. And that's initially how I was attracted to your show, is all about the voluntourism. So let's talk about the different countries that you visited with that.
Yeah, I mean, well, it began again while I was living in Colombia and in South America. The experience I had in having an authentic travel experience was the luck of geography, the luck of being born in the United States, wealthiest economy in the world. Our passport will take us almost anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And contrary to the beliefs at the time, you're not a target when you travel as an American in most places. If anything, you get special treatment. And so I was like, I want to find some way to get back to people so that I'm not just going and having a good time, and not giving anything back. And so I started exploring it, and it's not as easy as people think. I mean, there are some bad actors in it. You do have to research a little bit.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you're not good intentions don't actually make things worse. A great example is in Haiti. There's, the business of poverty I've talked about before in the show, where people are just so dependent on give outs and handouts that they're not, able to lift themselves up. So I'm really trying to look for things that help people lift themselves up, because what people are really looking for is dignity. And that's the thing you can give most anybody. Now, of course, children that are in truly orphans, in orphanages, they just need to be able to have a starting point, and anything you can do to help them do that. I've learned a lot about voluntourism over the years, and we've done a variety of different things. One of the most fulfilling ones, though, that I'll talk about is, people that are disabled mentally or physically in many developing countries get abandoned by their parents because they just don't have the wherewithal to take care of them. And so you find these really big-hearted people from locals and abroad, and it's a partnership, usually private partnership, that just says, no, we're not going to let people just live like animals. We're going to take care of them, and that's a very difficult thing to do. But one of the most inspiring trips that I've made are with organizations from Indonesia to Romania to Thailand.
Oh, wow.
Help people do that, and try to cover it in the show without being preachy, and just inspire people that want to do it, that are touched to do it, to show them how they can have their own journey. I can't tell you how to do it. You got to figure it out for yourself, but we'll give you some hints.
Well, let's talk about Bali, because I actually just started surfing over the last couple of years. And I've always wanted to learn to surf, originally from Northern California, near Santa Cruz, which was actually the original Surf City, USA. I'm now here in Huntington Beach, which is the Surf City, USA.
Yes.
And just to let you know, I barely swim, but my instructor is absolutely amazing. I'm going to do a shout out to Rocky McKinnon with McKinnon Surf and Sup Lessons. And yeah, there's been some meltdowns out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, me freaking out, seeing a wave. A 3-foot wave actually looks 6 feet, when you're all new to this. But I mean, what are some of the things that you overcome as far as on your fear bucket list?
Yeah, for sure. Indonesia snorkeling. Because
really? Wow.
Yeah, Belize, I had a little freak out panic attack when I was snorkeling in season 1, because nobody was wearing a life jacket, and they were like, I was like, these little kids, and I was like, I'm not a great swimmer either, right? And
oh, really? Wow.
One hand, and the water was a little rougher than I thought, and I had a little panic attack, and they had to throw the ring at me. And it was very embarrassing, right? And so that experience was in my head. And so every time we took a cruise with Sea Trek in Raja Ampat, Indonesia, where I went to Bali and Raja Ampat off the coast of Papua New Guinea, and the Indonesian part, and we snorkeled every day. And I just had to get through it, and the best way to get through it is to do it. And the feeling that you get when you do that, and I'm sure you overcame this when you're surfing, because the water is actually, I grew up in landlocked Tennessee, so having almost drowned a couple of times in Hawaii, and that little experience in Belize, I was like, I'm just not a great swimmer. I'm not terrible, but I'm not great. And just when you overcome something like that, it really gives you a good feeling, and it helps you fuel throughout your life, wherever, a challenge may come. And the only way to do it is just to do it, and I think that's part of living life. We're wired for that. And this world that we live in is an artificial bubble that we live in. And I remember I went to Machu Picchu for the first time.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And I remember there's no signs, there's no ropes that say don't walk here. And I'm like,
right,
fall off the cliff here. I'm like, I like that. It's so much better, because you go somewhere in the US, it's the land of no, you can't do this, you can't do that, sign a 12-page disclaimer, God forbid someone dies. And I'm like, yeah, it is bad. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, at the same time, death is a part of life, and to not chance some death and take some risk is not really living. And, it's going to come for you when it's ready for you anyway. So you may as well just go out there and live it. I really kudos to you for learning and
Yeah.
learning any new skill. You know, it's all about lifelong learning, and travel is a
Mhm.
part of that. When you see something you haven't seen before, you smell smells you haven't smelt before, hear a language you've never heard before, something in the brain kicks in that I think really does hold off dementia and all these things that happen in old age as you
Yes.
just kind of like get sedentary. And so I want to travel as long as I possibly can and at least keep my mind as active as possible until my last dying day, hopefully.
Well, a little backstory on me also is how I got involved in voluntourism, and my thank you gratitude service thing is actually through Princess Diana, because
Mm.
when I was 16 years old on July 29th, actually, which is my birthday, was her wedding. So I sent her a card in the mail, or a letter at that time. I got a letter back from Buckingham Palace, and that's kind of where my whole gratitude mission started. And then, of course, all the giving that she did, with orphanages and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where my heart came from her. So I just
Yeah,
love.
I don't understand people who are get really wealthy, get really powerful, and they seem to want more rather than to give more. And it
Mhm.
just, but we're not everybody. Everybody's not us. People, different things, motivate different people. But I'm really inspired by Bill Gates. I'm really inspired by, people that are very successful, but give it all away. I'm like, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, Bono with the U2, he's like that too. He gives back a lot.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And people I've been called, virtue signaling and things like that. Words I'm like, I don't even know what that means. But then I'm like, oh, you're saying I'm doing this for show. And I'm like, yeah, believe what you want. I mean, I think that cynicism is definitely, called for in certain cases, but at the end of the day, no one really knows the motivations. And I read a book once. It was called A Banker to the Poor, and it was talking about the end of
Oh,
poverty. And
okay.
the reality is we can end poverty if we had the political will. And they were talking about, people who do good deeds kind of, and didn't talk about it. And he felt like it was good to talk about it because then you inspired others. And I share that same thing. I'm like,
Yeah, same here.
even if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, if it looks good and you inspire someone else to do
Yeah.
good, hopefully you're doing it for the right reasons. Because at the end of the day, it's not, it's all about how, it's selfish endeavor anyway. We're doing it to feel good. Well, what better way to be selfish than to help someone else out? That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, so I've done several fundraisers. Matter of fact, just a couple of days ago, I finished the annual Surf City Splash. So it's a polar plunge here in Surf City. So it's a 23-year polar plunge and fundraiser, and we
And you
just
go
got.
into the Pacific is cold. That's the thing. I
Yes, it
live in
was
Santa
about
Monica.
55. Yeah, so we
Yeah,
had
I lived in
we had
Santa Monica
auction
for years.
items, raffle, we had everything, and 300 people went into the ocean, into the Pacific Ocean. So,
Wow. Yeah.
so that's one of the things that I do with Surfrider Foundation. Back in 2007, I raised $13,000 for Virginia Tech, for all the families who lost their loved ones with the Virginia Tech situation.
Yeah.
And I've always had a heart, a servant leadership to help people, and I can't have kids, so that's why I do a lot of this orphanage work. Matter of fact, the National Day Calendar cruise I got coming up in April, one of the days we're actually going to be in Puerto Vallarta, and
Yeah.
so we're going to be celebrating National Volunteer Month by giving back to an orphanage there in Puerto Vallarta. So,
Oh, excellent. Yeah. No, I
yes,
mean, there's always more need than there is ability, but that shouldn't stop people either. Because a lot of people, I think, have that mentality that, oh well, I can't solve all the world's problems, so I won't solve any. And I'm like, that's a
yeah,
total attitude too. So, do what you can. You're doing, good work for your own well-being as well as the well-being of others, and that's a win-win situation. And everybody kind of has to answer to what's going to get it going for them. And I tell people, there's a million different ways, a lot of different ways to give back. You don't all have to do the same thing. Everybody can do
mhm,
very different things. It's not always involving money. A lot of it involves time. So just whatever skills you have to give back, there's just you have to kind of figure it out. But everybody has their own personal journey. I can't do
yes,
that for you because my journey would be very different from yours, right? So we
exactly.
all have to find our own personal journey to get back. My advice is just get started,
Hmm.
see how it goes, and then follow that journey. It's just like travel. Once you start something, it takes on a life of its own, and you can just follow where it goes. And And that's a beautiful feeling.
Yes, and so even like joining a service club like Lions or Kiwanis, yeah, they do a lot locally for children as well. So
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I'm very inspired by young people today because I feel like looking back, I was a pretty selfish, self-centered kid
mhm.
growing up, and I think maybe because I was Gen X, after the baby boomers and after the hippie generation, and not cool to do it, and so we were sort of selfish. I felt like I was in a fraternity and we did things, but we didn't do it because we were helping. We did it because we wanted the points on the to win a contest at the end of the year with the other fraternities. And so I just think as you're younger, you're bound to be more selfish. But as you get older, and I saw a great proverb the other day, or a meme or something. It was like,
Yeah.
if you plant a tree that you'll never live long enough to sit under the shade, you get it. You understand that the value of planting that tree is not for you, it's for the people behind you. And that
Mhm.
mentality is what we need right now, because it's not about us. We'll probably make it till the end, whatever that is, hopefully. But what about those after us? And I don't have children either, but I still feel a debt. I don't feel like this is my planet to plunder and to leave it worse than I found it. I want to leave it better than I found it. And I think that's not an unreasonable thing for people to feel, and hopefully we've inspired a little bit of that with the show.
Mhm.
We done what we can, and we're continuing to do what we can. I support Ukraine. I support anybody that's trying to be free. That's another thing the show has taught me. It's just the value of being able to say what you want, do what you want, and be what you want. I mean, I really took that for granted until I started traveling to places like Cuba, uh,
Yeah.
Thailand, even Mexico, places where journalists are just getting murdered for essentially reporting the truth. And of course, Ukraine. So I really feel a special connection with Ukraine, not just because I have friends there and I traveled there, but because I know what it's like when you have someone bigger than you trying to shut you up and tell you how to live, tell them
Yeah.
what to do, not to mention murdering them. So, I'm all about supporting them. And we're doing this thing right now. I'll bring it up right now if it's okay.
Yes.
We're raising some money for an organization called careforukraine.org. So I made these little bumper stickers, Empathy Equals Strength. It's a show that's coming up. I'm working on it right now in February. And basically, it's the Ukrainian flag colors are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it's not quite 100% accurate. But anyway, if you want to show your support for Ukraine, these are $5, all five. It cost me like two to make, but I'll donate the two on my end. If you send $5, we'll send you a bumper sticker. And a lot of people say, hey, man, what's $5 going to do? It's going to do a lot. 6 people buying bumper stickers will pay the salary of a teacher of refugee children in Ukraine for a month through Care for
Wow.
Ukraine.
That's so amazing.
So you don't need a lot of money, So if you want one of these or you want to donate, just hit us up on our social medias at Raw Travel TV or at the website rawtravel.tv. And, I'll tell you where you can send your money and give me your address and I can send you one of these. I want to shout out really to my buddy well, that's a good one. I want to shout out to all the people who are supporting Ukraine right now. And basically all these folks who have made it possible for, Ukraine to stand tall against this aggression and to just stay strong against just these crazy circumstances, because a lot of good people from the World Central Kitchen, from my buddy Joseph from careforukraine.org, to my buddy Mark from Arizona, who just got back from a humanitarian. He's an ex-Marine, just got
Wow.
back from running supplies there. So many people, to Gogo Bordello, who just did a show because he's Ukrainian. The guy just did a concert where the proceeds went to help Ukraine. I mean, there's so many little acts of kindness that are working to help Ukraine, because if you can help Ukraine, it then has an effect of helping the entire world,
Yes.
because Haiti right now is suffering really hard because of the food crisis and the economic crisis caused by the war of Russia invading Ukraine. So we need to help Ukraine win so that the rest of the world can benefit as well.
Well, I want to do a shout out to the Bills.
There
Yeah,
we go.
they this is really hard for me. The young man who was injured, who's fighting for his life right now. If you are out there, we need all the prayers we can for the nation. Even if you're not a football player, just come together, or a football fan, come together as one, and all the prayers is just very appreciated, because prayers are pretty powerful. And closing out, oh God, what do I say, Robert? You and Anthony Bourdain are just so amazing for putting this out on TV and putting it out on the internet, on, how important it is to experience not just in our city, but around the world. And I'm just forever grateful, because if I wouldn't have turned the TV on that day, I would have never heard about you, and I never would have been here today with you. So I'm just so grateful for that. What is the number one tip from you to my audience on why they need to practice gratitude?
I think it just makes you happier, because there's a million reasons to be unhappy. But there's one very important reason to really be grateful. And that's the fact that the miracle of life, because it is a miracle. Basically, when you think all the odds of this planet being here, being livable, being around this many years, and then how many people had to get together for you to eventually be born, and for me to be born. When I think of that, it's weird. The smaller I feel, the bigger my heart gets. And it's when we start to get insular and we think we are the entire world, is when we get a little selfish, right? So travel has taught me that. And that's why I think it's important to practice gratitude. It got me through COVID, got me through a year and a half of no travel, because travel was my therapy. And I had to come up with something.
Exactly.
I read books and was inspired by what I saw on the internet, and from people like yourself, inspiring other people. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Robert Rose, one of my inspirations for this show. Take it away. Let's talk about raw travel, and also why people need to make the most of their dash.
Yeah, raw travel is really about authentic travel and enhancing your life through authentic travel, and voluntourism and giving back while you're traveling, and just the beauty of what that gives to the traveler, as well as the person who is on the receiving end of that. And that's what raw travel is about, and why I want people to watch the show and hopefully be inspired to travel and enhance their life and become better people, like travel has done to me. It's made me a much better person, and I just want to keep growing and keep traveling.
Okay, I'm going to pop you in the green room and hang tight when I close
Okay.
out, and then I'll see you in a minute.
Okay.
Thank you. Wow, wow, wow. Oh my God, this has been an amazing show. Thank you for everybody who attended today, and make sure that you follow Robert Rose over at Raw Travel, an amazing brand that you need to check. And you could actually go to Google or his website to see local listings for his show. Next on the show, I have my friend over at StreamYard. This is how we stream every single week. And you can learn a little bit how StreamYard can grow your brand through podcasting. This is Cindy over at Bucket List Coach Web Show Live. Make sure to think of 5 people every single day to express gratitude. Shaka, baby.